If you don't like seeing your heroes criticized but still want the full story, then brace yourself for some tough truths about Winston Churchill. This iconic figure, often hailed as the savior of Britain during its darkest hours, is also a man whose actions have sparked intense debate and controversy. To understand the full scope of his legacy, we must delve into both his celebrated achievements and his most contentious decisions. Winston Churchill is celebrated as a Wutu hero, but some argue he committed war crimes. His leadership during the war is often credited with rallying the British people and leading the Allies to victory. Yet beneath this heroic veneer lies a series of actions that have led many to question his moral standing. Let's explore the controversies. First, Churchill's strategic bombing campaign targeted German cities, resulting in significant civilian casualties. This was part of a broader strategy to cripple Germany's war effort by targeting not just military installations, but also industrial and civilian areas. The bombings were intended to break the morale of the German population and hasten the end of the war. However, the human cost was staggering. Critics argue these bombings, like the raid on Dresden, were war crimes due to their high civilian toll. The Dresden bombing in particular has been a focal point of this debate. The city was heavily bombed over 2 days in February 1945, resulting in a firestorm that killed tens of thousands of civilians. Thousands died, leaving a mark on his legacy. The destruction was so extensive that it raised questions about the necessity and proportionality of such attacks. Was it a legitimate military strategy or an act of indiscriminate violence? Next, the Bengal Famine of 1943. This tragedy unfolded in British-ruled India, where millions of people perished due to starvation and disease. Churchill's policies and wartime decisions are blamed for exacerbating the famine, causing millions of deaths. His government prioritized war efforts over the needs of the Indian population, redirecting food supplies to British troops and allies. His refusal to divert food supplies and his harsh rhetoric towards the Indian population have drawn severe criticism. Churchill infamously remarked that the famine was their own fault for breeding like rabbits, a statement that has been condemned for its callousness. Then, there's his harsh treatment of political prisoners and his stance on suppressing independence movements in colonies like India. Churchill was a staunch imperialist who believed in maintaining British control over its colonies. These actions are seen by some as violations of wartime ethics, raising questions about his commitment to freedom and democracy. His policies often involved the use of force to quell uprisings and maintain order, leading to numerous human rights abuses. However, it's essential to consider the context. Churchill's actions were often driven by wartime exigencies and strategic calculations. The pressures of leading a nation at war can lead to decisions that, in hindsight, appear morally dubious. Churchill's actions were often driven by wartime exigencies and strategic calculations. He faced the monumental task of defending Britain against a formidable enemy, and his decisions were shaped by the need to ensure survival and victory. Many historians argue that his decisions should be viewed within the period's complex realities. The context of total war, where the lines between combatants and civilians often blurred, complicates our judgment of his actions. Desperate times often call for desperate measures. The extreme circumstances of World War II required leaders to make difficult choices, balancing moral considerations with the imperative of winning the war. In conclusion, Churchill's legacy is a mix of strategic brilliance and controversial decisions, reflecting the moral ambiguities faced by leaders during wartime. His leadership was instrumental in defeating Nazi Germany, but his methods and policies have left a complex and contested legacy. So, what do you think? Hero, villain, or something in between? The debate over Churchill's legacy continues, inviting us to reflect on the nature of leadership, the ethics of war, and the ways in which history judges its figures.